Welcome, watchers. Last time we argued about the case of the Queen versus Dudley and Stephens, the Lightboard case, the case of cannibalism at sea, and with the arguments about the Lightboard in mind, the argument for and against what Dudley and Stephens did in mind. Let's turn back to the philosophy, the utilitarian philosophy of Jeremy Bentham. Bentham was born in England in 1748 at the age of. He went to Oxford at 15. He went to law school. He was admitted to the bar at age 19, but he never practiced law. Instead, he devoted his life to jurisprudence and moral philosophy. As time he began to consider Bentham's version of utilitarianism. The main idea is simply stated at its base. It's simply the highest principle of morality, whether personal or political morality, is to maximize the general welfare or the collective happiness or the overall balance of pleasure over pain. In a phrase, maximize utility. Bentham arrived at this principle by the following line of reasoning. We are all powered by pain and pleasure. They are our sovereign masters, and so any moral system has to take account of them. How best to take account by maximizing, and this leads to the principle of the greatest good for the greatest number. What exactly should we maximize? Bentham tells us happiness, or more precisely, utility. Maximizing utility is a principle not only for individuals but also for communities and for legislators. What after all is a community? Bentham asks, it's the sum of the individuals who comprise it, and that's why. In deciding the best policy, in deciding what the law should be, in deciding what's just. Citizens and legislators should ask themselves the question if we add up all of the benefits of this policy and subtract all of the cost, the right thing to do is the one that maximizes the balance of happiness over suffering. That's what it means to maximize utility. Now, today, I want to see whether you agree or disagree with it. And it often calls this utilitarian logic under the name of cost-benefit analysis, which is used by companies and by governments all the time. And what it involves is placing a value, usually dollar value, to stand for utility, on the cost and the benefits of various proposals. Recently, in the Czech Republic, there was a proposal to increase the excise tax on smoking. Philip Morris, the tobacco company, does huge business in the Czech Republic. They commissioned a study of cost-benefit analysis of smoking in the Czech Republic, and what their cost-benefit analysis found was the government gains by having Czech citizens smoke. Having Czech citizens smoke. Now, how do they get? It's true that they are negative facts to the public finance of the Czech government because there are increased healthcare costs for people who dwell smoking related diseases. On the other hand, there were positive effects, and those were added up on the other side of the ledger. The positive effects included, for the most part, various tax revenues that the government derives from the sale of cigarette products, but it is also included health care. The government, when people die early, pension savings, you don't have to pay pension for as long, and also savings in housing costs for the elderly. And when all of the costs and benefits were added up, the Philip Morris study found that there is net public finance gain in the Czech Republic of $147 million, and given the savings in housing and healthcare and pension costs, the government enjoys the savings of over $1,200 for each person who dies prematurely due to smoking. For this reason, cost benefit analysis. Now, those among you who are defenders of utilitarianism may think that this is unfair. Next, Philip Morris was killed in the arrest and they issued an apology for this heartless calculation. You may say that what's missing here is something that the utilitarian can be easily incorporate. Mainly, the value to the person and to the families of those who die from lung cancer. What about the value of life? Some cost benefit analysis incorporates a measure for the value of life. One of the most famous of these involved the Ford Pinto case. Did any of you read about that? This was back in the 1970s. The Ford Pinto was a kind of car. Anybody? It was a small car, subcompact car, very popular.
Welcome to rock music.
But it
Bluetooth
had
mode.
one problem, which is the fuel tank was at the back of the car, and in 3 hour collisions the fuel tank exploded, and some people were killed and some severely injured. Victims of these injuries took Ford to court to sue, and in the court case it turned out that Ford had long since known about the vulnerable fuel tank and had done a cost-benefit analysis to determine whether it would be worth it to put in a special shield that would protect the fuel tank and prevent it from exploding. They did a cost-benefit analysis. The cost per part to increase the safety to the Pinto. They calculated at $11 per part. And here is this was the cost benefit analysis that emerged. In the trial, $11 per part, 12.5 million cars and trucks came to a total cost of $137 million to improve the safety. But then they calculated the benefits of spending all this money on a safer car and they counted 180 deaths. and they assigned a dollar value, $200,000 per death, 180 injuries, 67,000, and then the cost to repair the replacement cost for 2,000 vehicles that would be destroyed without the safety device, $700 per vehicle. So the benefits turned out to be only 49.5 million, and so they didn't install the device. Needless to say, when this memo of the Ford Motor Company's cost benefit analysis came out in the trial, it applauded the others who awarded a huge settlement. Is this a counterexample to the utilitarian idea of calculating because Ford included a measure of the value life? Now, who here wants to defend cost benefit analysis from this apparent counterexample has a defense? Or do you think it completely destroys the whole utilitarian calculus? The whole utilitarian calculus. Once again, we have made the same mistake the previous Thursday taken in some. Human life, once again, they failed to take into account things like suffering and emotional losses of families. I mean, families lost earnings, but they also lost a loved one, and that is more value than $200,000. Good and wait, what's your name? Julie. So if you 100,000 Julie is too low a figure because it doesn't include the loss of a loved one and the loss of those years of life, what do you think would be a more accurate number? I don't believe I could give a number. I think that this sort of analysis shouldn't be applied to issues of human life. I think it can't be used monetarily. So they didn't just put a lower number. Julie said they were wrong to try to put any number at all. Alright, let's hear someone who you have to adjust for inflation. Alright, fair. So what would the number of being now? Was 35 years ago. $2 million. You would put 2 million. And what's your name? What check? What check says you have to. You should be more generous. Then would you be satisfied that this is the right way of thinking about the question? I guess unfortunately it is for there is needs to be a number put somewhere. I'm not sure what number would it be to I would agree that there would be possibility number put for a human life. Alright, Shaw. What Chuck says, and here he disagrees with Julie. Julie says we can't put a number of human life. For the purpose of a cost benefit analysis, work check says we have to because we have to make decisions somehow. What do other people think about this? Is there anyone prepared to defend cost benefit analysis here? And accurate as desirable? I think that if Ford and other car companies didn't use cost benefit analysis, they would eventually of business because they wouldn't be able to be profitable and millions of people wouldn't be able to use their cars to get jobs to put food to feed their children. So I think that if cost benefit analysis and implied the greater good is sacrificed. In this case, alright, let me ask what's your name? Role. There was recently a study done about cell phone use by drivers in cars, and there is a debate about whether that should be banned. And the figure was that some 2,000 people died as a result of accidents each year using cell phones. And yet the cost benefit analysis which was done by the Cost Center for Risk Analysis at Harvard found that if you look at the benefits of the cell phone use and you put some value in the life, it comes out about the same because of the enormous economic benefit of enabling people to take advantage while they are driving. Doesn't that suggest that it's a mistake to try to put monetary figures on questions of human life? Well, I think that if the great majority of people try to derive maximum utility out of a service like cell phones and the convenience that cell phones provide, that sacrifice is necessary for satisfaction to occur. You are outright utilitarian in yes, okay. Alright then, one last question on. Like would this too work check? What dollar figure should be put on human life to decide whether to ban the use of cell phones arbitrarily calculate a figure? I mean, or right now, I think that we want to take it under advisement. Here we are speaking about it. You have got through 300 days. You have got to assign a dollar value to know whether you want to prevent those deaths by banning the use of cell phones in cars. So what would you ask how much? Million, 2 million, 2 million was what checks figures. A million. Alright, that's good. Thank you. So these are some of the controversies that arise these days from cost benefit analysis, especially those that involve placing a dollar value on everything to be added up. Well, now I want to turn to your objections, not necessarily to cost benefit analysis specifically, because that's just one version of the utilitarian logic in practice today. But to the theory as a whole, to the idea that the right thing to do, the just basis for policy and law, is to maximize utility. How many disagree with the utilitarian approach to law and to the common good? How many bring with it? So more agree than disagree. So let's hear from the critics. The main issue with it is that I feel like we can say that just because someone is the minority, what they want and need is less valuable than someone who is in the majority. So I guess I have an issue with the idea that the greatest good for the greatest number is okay because there is still what about people who are in the lesser number, like it's not fair to them, they didn't have a social to be. Alright, now that's an interesting objection. You are worried. The effect on minority, yes. What's your memory? I know. Alright, we have an answer to an answer worry about the effect of the minority. What do you say to Anna? She said that the minority is valued less. I don't think that's the case because individually the minority value is just the same as the individuals in the minority. Just uh, the numbers outweigh the minority. And I mean, at a certain point, you have to make a decision. And I am sorry for the minority about, but sometimes it's for the general, for the greater good, for the greater good. And what do you say? What's your name, Yongda? What do you say to Yangda? Yangda says you just have to add up peoples. Those in the minority to have their preferences weighted. Can you give an example of the kind of thing you're worried about when you say you are worried about utilitarianism violating the concern or respect due to the minority? Can you give an example? So, well, with any of the cases that we have talked about, like in the shipwreck one, I think that the boy who was eaten still had just as much of right to live as other people, and just because he was the minority in that case, the one who maybe lost one the chance to keep living, that doesn't mean that the others automatically have a right to eat them. Just because that would give a greater amount of people the chance to live, so there may be a certain rights that the minority members have that the individual has that shouldn't be treated out for the sake of utility. Yes, Shana. Now this should be a test for you. Back in ancient Rome, they threw Christians to the lions in the Colosseum for sport. If you think how the utilitarian calculus would go, yes, the Christian saw to the lions of first anonymous excruciating pain, but looked at the collective ecstasy of the Romans. Younger. Well, that time, I don't think in the modern day of time to well, the one to give a number of happiness given to the people watching. I don't think any policymaker would say the pain of one person, the suffering of one person is much in comparison to the happiness gained. No, but you have to admit that if there were enough Romans delirious with happiness, it would outweigh even the most excruciating pain of handful of Christians thrown to the lion. So we really have here two different objections to utilitarianism.
Welcome to rock music.
One has to do with